rainfall is affecting farmers in South Alabama.
And as extreme weather continues across the world, the toll it's taking on households.
Plus, the interesting discovery made by the Webb telescope.
WBRC Fox 6 News. First Alert Weather Extra starts now.
Hey, we made it to the weekend. Welcome into First Alert Weather Extra. Chief Meteorologist Wes Wyatt.
Meteorologist Lauren Linehan here.
And meteorologist Tania Michelle.
Well, look, we got to plan a cookout or something this weekend. It seems like everything's going on, right?
There is a lot going on this weekend. I will definitely be finding myself by a fire pit with some s'mores somewhere.
Well, and be careful, though, because it is still dry. Very dry out there for this weekend. Not a lot of rainfall last night across the area. Let's get to the next big thing, and we're going to be tracking some cold air. Here it comes tonight and into tomorrow. Yeah, we have frost advisories and freeze warnings that are happening. Areas back to the west, you can see that system as it drops in. Looks like temperatures as we go into tomorrow night will be dropping into the upper 30s across parts of Alabama tomorrow night. I'm not expecting frost or anything like that just yet, but you will notice a big drop in temperatures. But AccuTrack radar still showing a few showers here. Check it out around Clay County. This is the back edge, but over the past few frames, seeing a little bit more wet weather that's trying to develop. So if there's any high school games happening, that's one spot where we got to watch out here as we get close to 7 o'clock. You make sure you have our Fox 6 weather app, because if any showers over here pop up close to where you are, you will get those alerts as the showers pop up across the area. But back edge of the cloud cover starting to shift from west to east across the state right now, and we're starting to see some clearing across Alabama. And tonight the temperature tumbles into the low 50s and upper 40s for early tomorrow morning. But the really cold stuff, it doesn't get here until later on tonight. So as far as the evening goes, if you have plans out there, it's going to feel rather tranquil, fair conditions. We'll have those temperatures cooling off into the 70s, but it's after midnight when the wind speeds start to pick up and we have the cold morning conditions. So next 10 days, one thing I want to show you, you start to see a pattern like this. You are getting closer to the cool season, and we have one cold front that's of course on the way right now, and you can see what an impact it has on our forecast of low temperatures. But just as we start to heat up next week, it's more of a progressive weather pattern that's starting to set up across the region. Those more active westerlies you can see into Sunday and Monday, and going into next weekend, another drop in temperatures on the way, so we could see some more 40s. So if you've been wondering, when do I need to break out the sweaters, when do I need to break out the long sleeves, well, it is time. And we'll have much more on the big chill and more on rain chances coming up in your First Alert forecast.
Thanks, Wes. Well, even though we had some rain in central Alabama today, other parts of the state haven't seen wet weather in weeks, and the low rainfall is having an impact on crops. Parts of South Alabama are under severe to extreme drought, impacting their ability to produce crops. Because of this, the U.S. Department of Agriculture has declared an emergency for that part of the state.
Corn did okay because it got harvested a little earlier, but now cotton, soybeans, some of those commodities are really hurting.
Pate says those counties would have to get at least half an inch to an inch of rain to see any sort of relief from the drought. And extreme weather across the world is forcing many people out of their homes, including children. Fox News correspondent Jackie Ibanez has more on a new report by the United Nations.
An average of 20,000 children a day have been forced out of their homes because of extreme weather. This according to the latest data from the United Nations that recorded the displacements between 2016 and 2021. The report claims the effects of droughts, floods, and fires are leaving many children without homes.
The children get disturbed. Their life gets disturbed.
The UN says the crisis could worsen because climate change is fueling extreme weather events.
It is increasing the severity, the frequency of these disasters, so the number of child displacements is likely to be far greater in the future.
The organization projects that within the next 30 years, more than 113 million children could be uprooted from their homes. Kids in India and China have been displaced more than 19 million times because of flooding.
Half of my books got swept away in the floods.
While those in the U.S. and Canada have had to face wildfire effects more than 800,000 times.
So in the aftermath of a disaster, they might experience mental or physical stress from seeing their homes destroyed, their communities destroyed.
When these weather events force kids from their homes, advocates say they become vulnerable to other health and safety risks.
Children may become separated from their parents or their caregivers, which expose them to risks of trafficking, exploitation, abuse, violence.
While world leaders can't stop weather disasters, the UN is calling on governments to create education and healthcare services that can be provided to those on the move. Jackie Ibanez, Fox News.
Well, let's head across America because up in New England, soggy conditions are causing fall colors to not be as vibrant in states like Vermont this year. Experts say the wet summer is to blame. Stretches of cloudy days make the photosynthesis process very difficult. Wet weather is also a breeding ground for fungus growth as rain collects on the leaves. Birch and sugar maple trees are the most affected.
And in Texas, many communities are beginning the cleanup process after severe weather moved through the Lone Star State earlier this week. Storms brought flooding, damaging winds, and hail on Wednesday night. A hailstorm damaged several vehicles at a car dealership, as you can see there in Fort Worth. Well, if archaeology piques your interest, you may find this next story interesting. Scientists now believe the Americas may have been discovered sooner than we initially thought. This comes after researchers discovered ancient footprints at White Sands National Park in New Mexico. Scientists believe the prints were left by people crossing into North America 29,000 years ago. This comes after the initial study in 2021 when researchers believed they were left 8 years after, leaving critics saying this updated data is encouraging. And First Alert Weather Extra will be right back in 30 seconds.
Welcome back to First Alert Weather Extra. I'm meteorologist Tania Michelle, and it's Friday, so you know that means another Mets around the world. So let's meet our guest today. He comes all the way from Italy. Yes, you heard that right, Italy, and he talks to us about how the weather was this summer.
Tell everybody where you're at right now.
So I'm in a small city, small town in Italy, about 1 hour outside of Naples, outside of Napoli. And there are a little less than 5,000 people here. I ended up here 8 years ago, initially to visit, and this is the town where some of my great-grandparents had come from. And I never planned that I would stay here or want to live here or move here, but it all just sort of happened. So I came to visit. The guy at the B&B asked me, "How long are you staying?" And I said, maybe 1 night, maybe 2 nights. I wasn't sure, but I figured that's enough time to see this small town, kind of get the feel of the land, and then move on to my next stop. Because I was on a road trip in Italy at that point. I had never really visited before. And so I rented a car in Rome, and I just started driving.
What's the weather like there now in Italy? What season is it? Give us the forecast update.
You know, we've had actually pretty weird weather this summer. Sort of the April showers, bring May flowers type of thing. You expect the rain in the spring. You know, we've got different fruit trees. I'm surrounded by grapes and olives, and that's the main, sort of staple crops that are here, making wine, making olive oil. And that's kind of the most important thing for the locals. But, you know, everyone has their fruit trees as well. And the fruit didn't turn out so well this year because we got a lot of rain, and the rain continued late into the season. So, again, normally things begin to slow down into, the end of April, beginning of May. But this year, rain continued through May. Rain continued toward the middle or latter part of June. And so temperatures were actually suppressed. It was pretty cool to basically start the meteorological summer here. In early August, we had temperatures that were even cooler, believe it or not. We were looking at lows at night in the mid-50s and daytime highs in the mid-70s to about 80 degrees.
It was so fun speaking to him, and as he just explained and talked about Italy and how their summers were there. They experienced lots of rain, but you know, things are a lot different for us right here, right now. Pretty dry. We did see some rain today, but join us next week as he talks about his meteorological journey and where he's headed next. Lauren.
Well, check this out. Beyond the atmosphere, astronomers made another incredible discovery. New images from the James Webb Telescope reveal planet-like objects that are believed to be a casual 1 million years old. They're being nicknamed Jupiter-mass binary objects. It doesn't sound like much of a nickname, but anyway, they were found in wide orbits around each other. Some of them are more massive than the actual planet Jupiter, which I imagine is ridiculously massive. And get this, with them being so far away from each other, they can take up to 80,000 years to complete an orbit around each other.
And this is pretty neat. Astronauts will be soon joining the fashion ranks. Take a look at this. Texas-based space company Axiom has turned to fashion house Prada to design new spacesuits for the 2025 Artemis 2 mission to the moon. This is after NASA awarded the company an almost $229 billion contract to modernize their spacesuits. 4 astronauts will be going on the lunar mission, including the first person of color and women.
Well, still ahead on First Alert Weather Extra, how deforestation is impacting pollution in the Chesapeake Bay.
All right, welcome back into Weather Extra. Live look from Tuscaloosa. You can see the sky starting to clear, but it's still 76 degrees here, so it feels pretty good. If you have plans, you're heading out this evening. It's nice and tranquil right now. 73 Brookwood Baptist Medical Center, and only a light north wind at 7 miles per hour. But here's the thing. We had that first little wave of showers that's now tapering off to the east, and the colder air is going to start moving in, and it looks like during the overnight hours, we could see those temperatures taking the tumble down into the upper 40s and low 50s by early tomorrow morning. We're going to stay dry. You can see through 7 o'clock and 10 o'clock tonight, and not a major drop off until we get to around midnight, and then we see that temperature taking the tumble down into the upper 40s and low 50s around 6 a.m. And also on top of that, notice the wind picking up out of the north at 12 miles per hour, but there could be some gust in there that could top 20 miles per hour. The stronger wind speeds come in after midnight, so if it's 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, you wake up, you hear some gusty winds outside, that's likely that next push of cool air that's going to roll in here later on tonight. But make sure, if you haven't done so, it's been a little while since we've had some blustery conditions, just make sure everything's, if you have any plants outside, you don't want the pots to turn over, make sure everything's kind of anchored and well secure. It looks like as we get into the afternoon tomorrow, it's still going to be kind of breezy, but certainly in the morning, it is going to be windy and cold out there. Highs only around 69 degrees for a high for our Saturday, but we start out around 47 in Coleman, and even down to the low to mid 50s here around places like Greensboro, Marion, Clinton, and Rockford during the early morning hours. Here's Sunday morning down in the low 40s around Hamilton, Fayette, but the new data, look at this, starting to show around places like Aniana, over towards Highland Lakes and Gadsden there. You can see upper 30s. It's going to feel cold early on Sunday, but hey, it's fair weather, right? If you're heading out to Coleman to the fair, temperatures in the 60s, around 64 for a high temperature tomorrow. Certainly one of the cooler days we have seen in quite some time. 7-day forecast. Again, we start to heat up next week, and then another cold front moves in. We have a chance showers, and it looks like by Thursday and into Friday, actually next Friday, the European guidance looks pretty good on the rainfall possibilities. So certainly check in with Tania and Fred over the weekend, because there's a good chance that we could be looking at a decent little rainmaker on the way with this next system towards the end of next week. But also see the possibility of another big cool down behind that system. So we're getting into that pattern, right? Cold front, we start to heat up. Here comes another cold front moving across the area. Well, you know, one day you may see this little guy helping deliver the weather forecast. I want to thank our little buddy Dustin Gibson from West Jefferson for visiting today. He's a big weather fan and said he wants to be a meteorologist one day. I was actually doing a weather visit in West Jefferson. He walked up and said, "Mr. Wyatt, I love the weather." So we spent the time in the First Alert Weather Center today, and he got to hang out with Tania and Lauren and Kim here, and I really enjoyed the view from Red Mountain, Lauren, and we took some photos out there today, but I'm so glad he had a chance to stop by. But we'll talk about a big Fox 6 fan and certainly a good friend of the First Alert Weather team.
Oh, yeah, Wes. I mean, he was such a sweet kid. I was saying we need him to be in here every day just to give hugs, because he just had a heart of gold.
Yeah, he was giving everybody hugs.
He was.
Yeah, he was a great hugger.
I'm like, if we have kids like that now, I have a lot of hope for our future. Just so sweet. And can't wait to see him being a future hugging meteorologist.
Maybe see him with Mickey's Weather Kids one day, right?
You know, might as well. Just keep getting those reps in. Well, this weekend, if you also are a weather lover, you're going to love this fall cold front coming in. But the best part about this, I'm so excited about getting outside and looking at that slowly changing fall foliage. So right now it's fairly patchy. It's not like you're seeing these vibrant fall colors everywhere, but there's almost this faint hint outside right now. I think as we get into next week, we're going to begin to see those colors popping up more and more again, so that partial coverage. And then in 2 weeks, we should actually be getting near the peak of the most abundant fall colors in our area. So it should be looking really good in about 2 weeks time. And then it's really the last week of October, first week of November that we begin to see that peak. And I just think it's perfect because it's right around Halloween. So as we look at the map here, this is kind of how it's progressed. This was late September, but then we see that those colors have just been getting more impressive. Here we are right now, the first, second week of October, seeing that partial coverage here in our neck of the woods. So if you are going to be going out this weekend, maybe going for a hike on Sunday when it's not going to be quite as blustery, like it's going to be a little breezy for tomorrow. It's going to be a gorgeous day. Honestly, I think temperatures are going to struggle to get any warmer than the low 70s for your Sunday afternoon, and it is going to start off pretty chilly. We're talking temperatures in the low 40s for a lot of us, but hey, that sunshine, that dry sunshine should warm us up into the 60s by around 11 a.m. and then just continuing to get a little milder into the afternoon, but you're probably still going to need the sleeves on even during the heat of the day. And y'all know the drill. You got to wear sunscreen any time of the year. The UV index isn't going to be horrible, but just keep that in mind. Now, as we look at that leaf blowing forecast, maybe you're like, I'm not in the mood to do a hike this weekend. I just got to get some work done around the yard. And a lot of you may not have much in the way of leaves just yet. But if you do, if you have some of those trees that are kind of jumping ahead of the game here, I think Saturday, if you got to get some yard work done, it's going to be dry, but it is going to be windy. And so if you're trying to rake some leaves into a pile, that may be putting a little damper on your plans a bit. But Sunday through Tuesday, looking good. Should be dry going into next week. Well, speaking of trees, we know they're all a crucial part of our planet, especially for pollution control of inland waters, like the Chesapeake Bay watershed. But trees in that area are becoming an increasingly rare resource. John Conway explains.
Before water gets to the bay, it has to travel through lots of waterways lined with trees. These trees are a first line of defense against pollution in the bay.
They filter out pollution, they provide habitat, they shade the water in smaller streams, which makes the habitat a lot better for fish.
In fact, much of the Chesapeake Bay pollution comes from a surprising source.
You know, a lot of people don't realize close to a third of the bay's major pollutant comes from dirty air.
And trees can filter out up to 90% of that pollution. But in recent years, trees have been disappearing. According to the Chesapeake Tree Canopy Network, Maryland's eastern shore lost more than 2 square miles of forested space between 2014 and 2018. Progress is being made to reverse the trend, though, and it has been getting results.
Designing the developments so that there's space for trees to mature and rooting space so that they can be healthy over time. And the lower eastern shore, it's actually one of the spots in the state of Maryland where tree cover has been increasing.
In Wicomico County alone, existing tree cover removes more than 11 million pounds of air pollutants and sequesters 158,000 tons of carbon per year, but more still needs to be done.
You just can't do any better for the bay, for water quality, for habitat than to plant lots of trees.
Trees are definitely our lifeline. Before we have more weather extra, here's a look at today's Weather Almanac.
Hey, it looks like we got a weather pick.
We do, Wes. I just saw this and I was like, hold on. We can't let you go on into your Friday evening until we show you this pic. Because at first when I saw the pic, I was like, oh, look at that beautiful sunrise. And then I looked a little closer. We had a little feline cameo. So I said, that is us walking into the weekend.
You
and
got
that's
it.
what we are going to be doing.
I like that.
Man, what a good weekend we have in store.
Absolutely.
And you got a lot to, we're going to be tracking that system next week, hopefully next Friday.
A little bit more rain.
Yeah, look at some of the models tomorrow, see what that has to offer. Of course, I know you're going to be sending out, which we have the weather app, those alerts and those push alerts with those updates on those rain chances, and hopefully it's better news.
Yes, we need the rain. We're still dealing with these dry conditions across central Alabama, so it wouldn't hurt to have some more by the end of next week.
Yeah, I think when we were looking at today's rainfall totals at the Birmingham airport, I think it was like, or what we got over the past 24 hours, it was like 207 inch.
Oh, I know.
So that ain't much.
You know, when you get one of these rain events and then you, did it rain last night?
Yeah.
You know, it was really light, but we did pick up about 1/10 of an inch in some locations. But dry for the weekend. We got some colder weather on the way. And I'll tell you, that cold air is going to be getting close tonight once you check in with us. Be sure to join us first at 9. We'll have updates on the weekend and more. That's later this evening. Have a wonderful Friday evening. Tania, Lauren, thank you guys so much.
Thank you, and enjoy that coffee on the porch this weekend.
Ooh.